Have you ever walked into a room you know well and felt a change in the current? A quiet weight in the atmosphere, an unexpected shift inside you, or a deep silence that clings to the corners? We often label these feelings as just fatigue, our own imagination, or even a change in the weather. However, timeless wisdom from many paths teaches that these feelings are not random. They are the language of your space, showing you that the environment where you live possesses its own unique stream of energy. Ancient traditions share a profound insight. The things you keep in your home are never truly silent. They act more like focused streams, channeling energies that can either nourish your inner peace or invite currents that create confusion and drain your spirit. From this perspective, every single item holds a form of resonance, an energetic imprint left by the way it was made and the life it has lived. When those conditions were filled with struggle, distress, or turmoil, the object can continue to emanate that frequency, even after it comes to you. This explains why certain older or second-hand items, regardless of their beauty, can subtly change the feeling of a room. This is a reflection of a fundamental law of nature, like joins with like. In the same way that a single note can make a matching string vibrate, the items in your home can resonate with unseen currents, drawing in influences of a similar quality. Your home, then, is not merely a structure of wood and stone. It is a spiritual garden. The important question becomes, what seeds are you allowing to be planted, and what is growing there? When we think of disruptive energies, our minds often turn to dramatic tales from movies and books. Yet, the teachings of ancient wisdom offer a far more subtle and grounded view. The influences drawn to our living spaces are rarely monstrous figures. Instead, they are dissonant frequencies, like stagnant water that gathers where flow is absent. These currents don't possess the force for a direct assault. Their influence grows by feeding on something deeply human, unresolved emotion. Emotions like fear, resentment, prolonged grief, or constant anger create a kind of spiritual static. Much like dampness attracts mold, these dissonant frequencies are drawn to environments saturated with emotional turmoil and to the objects that hold and amplify it. This is why a house full of unspoken conflict can feel heavy even when it's quiet, or why a particular family piece might seem to carry a sense of sorrow. Such influences can remain hidden because they merge so well with the existing emotional weather of a home. You might believe you are just experiencing a difficult month or a bout of anxiety, but your environment may actually be echoing and strengthening these feelings, inviting more of the same. The very sensitive among us, especially children, often feel it first. They might have troubled sleep, sudden anxieties, or mood changes without knowing the source. And yet, there is a powerful truth here: these influences are not in control. No object, no lingering energy, and no frequency is beyond change. Once you recognize the quiet forces shaping your home, you can start to reclaim your sanctuary through mindful action, intentional clearing, and the cultivation of a more harmonious vibration. A space can be transformed from a place that drains you into a wellspring of light. The next step is to recognize which kinds of items most often act as anchors for these unwanted currents, and how to know if something in your home might be holding more than just sentimental worth. The first category of items that wisdom traditions advise us to be mindful of are those holding echoes of deep distress. These are objects that have soaked in the residue of intense suffering, conflict, or tragedy. To the physical eye, they can seem entirely neutral, sometimes even exquisite, yet the energy they emanate tells a different tale. Consider, for example, an old blade that was once part of a violent history, or medical tools from a time of great pain. For a history enthusiast, they are artifacts, but ancient wisdom suggests that the vibrations of fear, pain, and loss can become embedded in the very substance of an object, like a memory that constantly replays. When you bring such things into your home, they can continue to broadcast these old frequencies into your current life. This is not limited to weapons or tools of suffering. A piece of jewelry from an ancestor who lived through profound sadness, furniture from a place of long-term long-term confinement, or any item connected to a painful event can carry these distress signals. These frequencies act as magnets for dissonant energies, the very currents that thrive on emotional unrest. This insight is echoed in many personal stories today. People frequently feel a sense of unease or restlessness after bringing home certain old objects, and find that feeling lifts only when the item is gone. These feelings often arise without any prior belief. They come from within, as if the object itself is whispering its story to the space. The deeper insight is that these imprints work below our conscious thoughts. We may not look at a chair or a ring and think, harm. Yet, our deeper awareness and energy are constantly interacting with its vibration. Over time, these hidden currents can influence the emotional balance of an entire family. The teaching is not to become fearful of old things, but to cultivate a clear awareness. Before welcoming an object into your sanctuary, you can ask, what journey has this object taken? What kind of history might it hold? And how does my own inner self feel when I am near it? Your intuition often perceives what your eyes overlook. A second group of objects that require careful discernment are those connected to intentional dissonance. These are items that, either through their creation or their use, have been directly linked with practices that invoke lower frequencies or are aimed at harmful spiritual purposes. Unlike items imprinted by surrounding events, these objects are often consciously designed to be conduits. You can see them as instruments or even portals constructed to open pathways to dimensions that may not align with peace and well-being. This can include ritual tools from harmful ceremonies, symbolic charms created with malicious intent, or imagery that glorifies division and fear. Even things that seem like games can, when used without clear awareness, become channels for confusion. Ancient teachings warn that such objects vibrate in tune with realms where confused or parasitic currents reside. Once placed in a home, they don't simply sit on a surface. They continue to resonate with the frequency of their original design. This does not mean every spiritual object is a risk. The very same traditions confirm the power of sacred art, prayer tools, or icons used with a pure heart. The critical difference is the intention woven into the fabric of the item. Was its purpose to elevate and connect with clarity and light? Or was it tied to practices centered on control, manipulation, or fear? A significant risk is that these objects often go unrecognized. People might inherit a statue, buy a strange artifact on a trip, or be given something without knowing its background. Behind its outward appearance, it might be broadcasting a frequency that welcomes unsettling energies. The solution is not fear, but mindful presence. Before you place any spiritually themed item in your home, pause and ask, does this symbol bring a feeling of peace, spaciousness, and love? Or does it stir something heavy, uncomfortable, or fearful within me? Your inner state is the most reliable compass. By becoming conscious of the spiritual story behind the objects you choose, you begin to reclaim mastery over the energies you invite into your sanctuary. A third category ancient wisdom highlights involves what we can call emotional saturation objects. Different from items marked by a single, powerful event, these are things that have been steeped in prolonged negative emotions for years. Imagine a piece of furniture that sat in a room where bitter arguments were a daily occurrence, or clothes that were worn through a long period of deep despair. Even a painting, if it was created from a state of intense anger or hatred, can hold that emotional charge. These teachings suggest such objects absorb emotional static like a sponge, quietly releasing it back into their environment long after the original people and situations are gone. The danger of these items lies in how ordinary they seem. A sword with a violent history is easier to connect with conflict, but a simple desk from a home filled with resentment offers no outward clue of its past. And yet, when brought into a new space, it can subtly affect the atmosphere, potentially making the new inhabitants more susceptible to irritation, sadness, or fatigue for no clear reason. Modern understanding speaks of a similar effect called emotional contagion, the way moods can transfer between people. The ancient perspective extends this principle to the physical things that witness those moods. In this view, energy doesn't just disappear when a conflict ends or a sad chapter closes. It can remain in the materials that absorbed it. The beautiful truth is, you are not helpless. Awareness is your first and most powerful tool. Observe how you feel when you are near certain things in your home. Do you notice a subtle tension, a feeling of unease, or a sense of being drained? If you do, it might not be a product of your mind. It could be the object itself carrying a vibration that is out of harmony with your well-being. The guidance is clear and simple. You can either cleanse such items with sunlight, clear intention, and blessing, or you can choose to let them go. In choosing what stays in your home, you are also choosing the emotional weather you wish to live in. The fourth type of object that ancient wisdom warns us about can be the most easily dismissed items of spiritual misdirection. Unlike things with an obviously heavy energy, these objects subtly warp our inner compass. They don't broadcast darkness. Instead, they promote ideas, messages, or images that can gently lead us away from compassion, clarity, and our true nature. From this perspective, every idea vibrates with energy, just like every object. When an item embodies teachings or symbols rooted in separation, judgment, or destruction, it creates an energetic signature that attracts influences aligned with those same qualities. This might appear as books that glorify cruelty, art that celebrates division, or music born from a place of nihilism or deep despair. The true risk is how normal they can become. When such items are in our home, they aren't just decorating the space, they are reinforcing a quiet frequency of disharmony. Over time, that frequency can influence our thoughts and feelings, pulling us away from our own inner light. It is like tuning your awareness to a channel filled with static, where peace becomes more difficult to find. This does not mean we must avoid all difficult art or challenging topics. The concern is with the intention and energy behind the creation. A film that explores human suffering from a place of empathy has a profoundly different vibration than one that revels in darkness. One can expand our heart, the other can deplete our spirit. To know the difference, the teachings advise you to notice your inner state. How do you feel when you interact with the object? Do you feel inspired, open, and more connected? Or do you feel heavy, unsettled, and disconnected from your core? The quiet responses of your own body are the clearest guides to an object's spiritual resonance. Choosing to surround yourself with items that embody truth and compassion is not an act of judgment. It is an act of energetic hygiene. In the same way, we would not eat spoiled food that harms the body. We can avoid objects of spiritual misdirection to protect the atmosphere of our home. Another category highlighted in timeless teachings seems quite simple: objects of broken energy. These are things that are physically damaged, fractured, or can no longer fulfill their original purpose. We may see them as simple clutter, or things we feel too sentimental to discard, but this wisdom sees them as carrying a chaotic frequency. It is taught that every object possesses a natural flow of energy, like a gentle current moving through a stream. When an object is broken, shattered, or stopped, that current is blocked. This creates what could be called spiritual static, a kind of subtle interference that can make it more difficult for harmonious energies to settle and flow. At the same time, this disordered state can create an environment where confused or chaotic influences feel more at home. Think of a cracked mirror in a bedroom, a clock whose hands will never move again, or a damaged sacred symbol left in a box. To our busy minds, they seem trivial. Yet, this perspective suggests that these items are like snags in the energetic tapestry of your home, creating small disturbances that quietly affect the people living there. Other traditions reflect this same teaching. Feng Shui, for instance, warns against keeping broken things, viewing them as blockages to the flow of life force, inviting stagnation. The ancient spiritual perspective adds another layer. Broken items don't just create disorganization, they invite a subtle confusion into the unseen atmosphere of your sanctuary. The path forward is very direct. Repair things if you can, or release them with gratitude for their service if you cannot. By letting go of what is broken beyond repair, you create a space for wholeness, clarity, and positive energy to enter. In this way, clearing out these objects is not just about tidying a house. It is a profound practice of spiritual alignment. Your home, this wisdom reminds us, should be a reflection of wholeness. Surrounding yourself with things that are complete, uplifting, and inspiring creates an environment where nourishing energies can move without obstruction, and where confusion finds no place to rest. Creating this flow and harmony is a practice we share. If this path of cultivating a conscious space speaks to your journey, I invite you to become a part of our community by subscribing. When we share these insights, by liking or forwarding this on, we help each other clear the path. A sixth category of items to be mindful of are what can be called objects linked to obsession. These are belongings that came from someone who was caught in a powerful, compulsive pattern, be it addiction, deep mental struggle, or destructive behaviors. Ancient wisdom explains that just as feelings of peace and joy leave a beautiful imprint on the things around them, so do intense obsessive struggles. The objects closest to those struggles become saturated with that same restless energy. When brought into a different home, they can continue to radiate those patterns, sometimes amplifying cycles of anxiety, compulsion, or confusion for the new inhabitants. As an example, consider a piece of jewelry from someone who was tormented by addiction, or a diary filled with the writings of a person lost in destructive thoughts. Even the furniture or personal effects from someone living with profound mental distress can hold the echo of that inner turmoil. To keep such items without clear intention, this wisdom teaches, is to risk carrying forward the very difficulties that once troubled their previous owners. This insight can be challenging, particularly when these objects belong to people we love. The teachings never suggest judgment or rejection of those who suffered. They encourage compassion alongside profound awareness. Holding on to an item saturated with heavy energy doesn't truly honor the person. It may instead keep both the living and the memory of the departed tied to unresolved pain. If a meaningful object must be kept, ancient wisdom suggests a path of intentional cleansing and rededication. Through blessing, focused intention, and sunlight, the vibration of an object can be transformed. However, if it continues to feel unsettled despite these efforts, the most loving action may be to release it, trusting that your love for the person is held in your heart and memory, not within an object. Objects linked to obsession remind us that our homes are not museums of past pain. They are living, breathing spaces. By choosing mindfully what we carry forward, we protect both our own inner peace and our spiritual journey. The seventh category of items carries a unique weight: objects of spiritual warfare. These are things that were consciously used in ceremonies, rituals, or practices intended to cause harm, exert control, or manipulate another person. Unlike items that passively absorbed energy from trauma, these warfare objects have been deliberately filled with hostile intent. This could include weapons used in harmful rites, charms designed to restrain someone's free will, or tools from practices of dark manipulation. The wisdom here is direct. Such objects are not merely heavy, they can be profoundly disruptive. Why is this? Because intention is a powerful creative force. When a person focuses their will towards domination, hatred, or harm, that energy doesn't simply disappear after a ritual is over. It embeds itself within the physical item that was used as its channel. This can create a direct pathway through which disruptive forces, or what some call entities of confusion, can continue to affect the present moment. Bringing such an object into your home could lead to anything from emotional turmoil and constant conflict to inexplicable misfortune, or even a sense of oppression. There are accounts of people who unknowingly kept such things, only to find their lives filled with struggle until the object was finally identified and removed. The guidance from these traditions is unwavering. Never keep items that you know were used for destructive spiritual acts. If you find one, the wisest path is to return it to the earth or destroy it with prayerful intention. breaking any energetic bond that remains. By contrast, these teachings encourage you to fill your space with objects dedicated to a higher purpose, symbols of light, compassion, and inner truth. These create a spiritual shield and invite harmony, making sure your home remains a sanctuary, not a battleground. The final category that ancient wisdom cautions us about is perhaps the most profound: objects of extreme collective suffering. These are items connected to places or moments where immense anguish, violence, or widespread trauma took place. Think of remnants from a battlefield, tools that were used for torture, or artifacts from sites of tragic loss. Such objects, it is taught, absorb not just the events of history, but the deep psychic pain of countless souls. They act as resonators, broadcasting the echoes of that past agony into the present. The energetic weight of such items is rarely subtle. People who bring them into their homes often speak of a deep heaviness, recurring nightmares, or a sorrow that has no clear source. In some cases, the items seem to fill their surroundings with a sense of gloom, not because of a restless spirit, but because the very essence of the object is imprinted with overwhelming despair. The guidance here is clear. These objects should not be kept as collectibles or decorations. To do so is to constantly invite the vibration of suffering into your personal space. Even if you acquire them for their historical value, their effect can be unsettling for your mind and spirit. Instead, wisdom encourages us to honor history in ways that uplift us, not burden us, through remembrance, prayer, or creating new works that transform tragedy into wisdom. By releasing objects tied to extreme suffering, we create space for the souls connected to those events, and for ourselves to move towards healing, release, and peace. In closing these reflections, there is a core truth: our spirit thrives in an atmosphere of love, clarity, and light. The things we choose to have around us will either reinforce that atmosphere, or they will diminish it. Our path is to choose with awareness. As we have journeyed through these ancient warnings, a clear understanding has unfolded. The objects in our space are not silent. They carry the vibrations of human intention, past experiences, and spiritual energy that can either elevate or trouble our spirit. We've seen how items connected to distress, obsession, brokenness, or conflict can create quiet disharmony in our homes. We've explored how certain charms or symbols can act as doorways for confusing influences. And we've considered how objects of immense suffering can bind us to a pain that is not our own. Yet, this message was never intended to create fear. It is a call for discernment. These teachings remind you that you are the guardian of the sanctuary you live in. Just as you choose the food that will nourish your body, you must also choose the objects that will nourish your soul. This does not mean you should live in an empty space. Far from it. This wisdom encourages you to surround yourself with things that radiate love, joy, creativity, and service. Family treasures filled with warm memories, art that uplifts your spirit, books that expand your awareness, or simple tools that have been used with care and kindness. All of these strengthen the soul's light. Ultimately, this lesson is deeply empowering. By clearing away that which carries confusion, you create a space for clarity to grow. By releasing objects connected to pain, you invite healing to flow. And by consecrating your home with symbols of truth, beauty, and compassion, you transform it into a true sanctuary where your spirit can find rest and renewal. It is believed that the journey of the soul continues onward, but that the preparation for that journey begins right here, in the environments we build for ourselves every day. The question we can ask is simple: does this object bring more light, or does it cast a shadow? In that answer, you will find your freedom. Perhaps the greatest insight is this: the most powerful objects are not those charged with fear, but those infused with love. And love, it is taught, is the one vibration that no disharmony can ever overcome. Making a choice for clarity in your own space is a profound promise to your own growth. To continue this journey together and affirm this commitment, I invite you to subscribe so our shared path continues. By turning on notifications, you ensure you will not miss our next exploration. and your simple act of liking this video or sharing it with another can help bring this sense of peace to someone else who is seeking it. Have you ever felt that an object in your home held a particular energy, either comforting or unsettling? Please share your experience in the comments below. Your story is a valuable part of our collective wisdom. Remember, the world you build around you helps build the world within you. Choose with awareness, act with intention, and above all, stay connected to your own light.